Well, hello, folks, and welcome to the Dieter Melhorn Fishing Podcast. I hope you're having a great day, whatever day it is that you happen to be listening to the show or possibly watching it. I am now airing a video version of this podcast on my YouTube channel, Dieter Melhorn Fishing. And so you can check it out. You can watch it and listen to it, or you can just listen to it. We kind of do a version of both. A couple of programming notes. First, we got thunderstorms rolling through the area, so you may hear a rumble of thunder in the background somewhere. We've also got a whole bunch of kids playing in the yard that are over, so you may hear dogs barking. I'm not going to try to stop the podcast to take care of any of that. We're just going to roll with it, and we're going to let it go. So anyway, I appreciate you checking it out, listening to the podcast, watching it. You guys on YouTube, I've got comments up now. So feel free to leave comments. Give me some feedback. Let me know what's going on. YouTube has turned the comments back on, and it's been going pretty good so far. You guys that actually listen to the audio podcasts on the different audio or different podcast platforms that are out there, it's a little more difficult to leave a comment. So go to my website, DieterMelhornFishing.com, and there's a contact section there where you can give me some feedback. Most of these podcasts come from ideas that I get from people. Today's podcast is a little different. This one is somebody that I sat down with at the Catapalooza Fishing Expo. You guys need to make plans to visit that in 2022 in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Great location, great place. I sat down with a guy there who owns a tackle business, Nate Davis, Tackle Bandit. You've probably heard of it. They are a virtual online tackle distributor, specializing in catfish tackle, but they sell a lot of tackle for a lot of different species. So go check them out, tacklebandit.com. Nate, really, he was very gracious to take the time to sit down with me, and he was, this podcast, this interview is the way I want all of them to go if I could make a decision. This is one of my best, in my opinion, and I hope you hang around to the end of it, because I think you really get to see his passion, his love for the sport, for family, for his business. And, you know, it's reflected in some of the emotion that he expresses in this podcast. And he was very kind and very gracious to just be that open about everything that's got going on, leading up to building this brand and how he got there. So, again, a very good podcast, and I thank him tremendously for taking the time to sit down, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. So let's get back to the early years. Let's start you out early. Where are you from? Tell us about where you grew up.
I grew up in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area in a smaller suburb town called Owasso. I grew up, went to school there. Spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. My grandpa was a big fisherman. Back then, we trot line and limb line to eat. That's what we did all summer, and we ate that all winter.
No shame, no apologies.
No, not at all. It's like I totally like back then it was flat. Like my grandpa wanted to catch big flatheads. We filled the freezer up, and unlike things that happen today, we ate every bit of it. Yeah. And we missed it when we were sad when he was gone, because that kind of stopped for that. And I got out of fishing for a little while. That's how, man, I'm a bluegill catching machine. I'm not bragging or nothing, but my son's the same way. He will sit out there for hours and just pop that stuff out. Yeah.
What's your earliest memory of catching a fish or going fishing or seeing that kind of like one that has stuck in your mind?
So like I mentioned, my grandpa had a little low 17-foot semi V-bottom boat with a 40 horsepower junk Mercury on the back. And man, I remember breaking down one time on the river. I think we were like 18 miles upriver, and we drifted into this big old log jam, and it was getting dark, and my aunt was with us, and she doesn't like being on the river like that, and finally got the motor going. But man, that was one of those things. And then, just seeing, like, being so small and seeing all these fish in the boat that, I might have been 7 or 8 years old when I remember when this happened, and seeing fish that were almost my size. They're just pulling in and putting them in the boat, and we'd go home and clean them, or not go home, go back to the campground and clean them. And I remember the first time I cleaned a fish, my grandpa was about a 25, 30-pound blue. It was post-spawn. It was starting to get real fat now. And I just remember the expressions that happened and man, this is gross. Like, I'd never done nothing like this, and the whole thing. And I've learned a lot from how to do that with the responsibility of, how to cut away from you. You want to be safe. And then also I've learned a lot now as of, catch and release. I want to save this and make it good for my kids and their next generations and so on and so forth and keep it rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So you grew up, it sounds like, in an outdoor lifestyle.
Oh yeah. I was at Grandma and Grandpa's house a lot. And then if it was summertime, I'd beg my parents to go to the river. Can I go to the river this week? I'd stay a week or two at a time, and then I'd get sent home because my grandpa would get tired of me. And then he wouldn't ever say that, but I know now. It's just too much having an 8, 9-year-old. He was probably 70 at that point, or close to it. Yeah. And you send me home, and I'd be begging to go back, and we'd go back again.
That's cool. That's some good memories, and that stuff really, it imprints you. I was talking with Melton Hillbill about it. It's like it triggers something in your DNA.
I got the goosebumps just talking about it. I mean, just thinking about how much that man taught me. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. You said you got away from fishing for a while. A lot of us, we get a little bit older, we go to school, we figure out there's girls in the world.
Oh, that's exactly what happened. Yep. Yeah. And then I found out my high school girlfriend, which is my now wife, she's like, I want to go fishing. She's always done it, so we started doing it again. I started fishing. I got into catfishing again, rod and reel. It's something I never really did up until, I'd say, probably 10 years ago. And we'd go down below. We had a low water dam in town, and it just got to where it was too expensive. I couldn't keep buying sinkers from these places. I'd spend $30 a night in sinkers. I just couldn't do it anymore. I mean,
you were lead poisoning the fish out there.
Yeah, well, no, what would happen? We were fishing real big snags. This is in the middle of town. My personal best up until I started Tackle Bandit was coming from a place where I could see downtown over there, and a 40-pound flathead rolling out of a dam that you can throw a rock in a kid's playing in a park on Riverside, and then that's what got me into thinking I can't keep doing this. There's got to be a way I could get it cheaper.
Now, at that time, you were working.
Oh yeah, working full time. I had kind of went through a point. I've been self-employed a few times. Had some unfortunate events happen to where stuff got stolen, and it's ultimately brought me to where I'm at now. I worked at an engineering company full time. I was very successful with that. I ended up running a department in there. And during that time, I started Tackle Bandit. And I told my boss about it, and he thought it was awesome, just doing something in the evenings. Pouring sinkers is really what it turned into. But before I started Tackle Bandit, I was pouring sinkers. And then the guys I went fishing with, they're like, can I buy some of them from you? I'm like, well, yeah, that's fine. Just pay for what I didn't care. I'd spend an hour once a month or, something pouring all the sinkers I need. And then they needed it. And I said, yeah, just pay for what I have in them, which is the cost of the scrap lead I buy from a plumber or whatnot. And then after that, it kind of turned into their buddies wanted them. And then I was like, you know what? I could put some of this stuff on Craigslist back then. And then Facebook Marketplace came around, and I was like, well, shoot, I'm going to make me a little Facebook page. And it was actually a different business what I came up with, and I'm pretty sure one of my buddies who won't ever fess up to it bought the website domain, and he would never fess up to it, but I ended up changing to Tackle Bandit. There's no regrets at all about doing that. And so
it started out you
just making sinkers. Yeah.
There's a little bit of interest in it from some buddies. You figure I could make a few extra bucks to pay for this habit.
Yeah, that's really was. If I could sell it to him and make $10 a night making sinkers more than I need, that'd pay for me to keep it going.
We've got during the podcast, for you guys that are listening to it, you don't get to see the fly that is buzzing around. So we got that fly buzzing around it here. But what was you got this going, you're thinking, okay, this is cool. This is going to pay for the habit. What was the next evolution with it? Where did you kind of go, well, maybe I can sell some hooks?
That was exactly what I was going to start was the guys that I was fishing with. We actually sponsor them now. Like that, they're somebody I met down there. They're like, hey, let's go back here and we'll do this. And I learned a lot of stuff that how they do. They actually got me. They were dead set on no rolls, and I said, you guys are crazy. No rolls are not the way to go because we'd lose fish, the line would break. We were using braid. But going to hooks, they were saying, man, I can buy these hooks at a store. It's this many, and I'm like, I like these hooks that I got from somebody else, which was tackling cats at that point. Like this is there's a lot of companies that were in the industry that started about the same time, about 5 or 6 years ago. And with that being said, I had an idea from a friend, my old boss that I had. his brother-in-law came out and fished. And so he was like, hey, do you have like a kit or something that I can buy that has everything I need in it, like for just to tie up, I'll buy line or whatever. And I said, no, but I'll figure out how to do that. So I was talking to people, and one of the guys that I knew then, Patrick Beck, I told him about what I'm thinking about. He's like, there's a guy out there doing that right now. I said, who is it? And so it was Willie from Tackling Cats. I gave Willie a call. That guy can talk. There's a couple guys in this industry that you call him, you better set aside an afternoon to talk. Willie's one of them. I never talked to him before. And I talked to him, and before I know it, I had bought, I think it was 20 of them, or 10 of them. It was 10 or 15, 20. I bought them, and this guy, he bought 2 of them, and then I put them up on my Facebook page that I had made. And guys were like, oh man, these are awesome. Can I buy sinkers with them? And then I kind of lumped it all together, and that was the start of the beast, the Tackle Bandit of it. It just came from there and just kept on.
You said something earlier that's interesting. I've heard this from this time frame 5-6 years ago. Okay, we're here at the taping of this is 2021. So I've heard that from several people. It's about the time, a little bit after that's when I started my YouTube channel. There were people getting into tackle rods, getting okay. What happened in the catfish world?
I wasn't even in it yet. I don't know. I was out there just having fun, and then I found out there's all these people that had and then all of a sudden I got friend requests from guys with these huge, I'm talking 60, 70 pound fish. And I'm like, I remember catching those a few times when I was younger. And I was like, that's a big fish. But it just exploded. It's like social media just like went, everybody can find everything here. And then YouTube did the same thing. And I think YouTube is probably one of the best social media platforms for new fishermen and people in the fishing industry, because you can Google anything you want you can look up anything you want on YouTube and just find it.
Yeah, because when I came across it shows up in Facebook. It's suggested out there. We're watching you from your, I guess, is it a basement that you were in at the time?
No, it's a small. So I live on a property. It's a small little shop. I still use it today until we get in this new building. I still use it today. It's what I poured sinkers on. I actually cleaned this thing out whenever we moved in. It was full of just stuff. Cleaned this thing out, got my little metal bench. I had probably 3 foot to where I could do everything. And I got it all set up with the pots that I bought and a few molds. And I just started making stuff. And then,
what was your first, take us back to your first time, I'm going to go live on Facebook. What was that like?
So my wife and I were talking about this. I said, I think I want to go live. I said, I've never done this. I said, it'll probably be like 10 or 15 minutes maybe. That's that quick phone call we were just talking about, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to go through and just make a few sinkers. I had at that point, I thought I was just moving up, just high rolling in the sinker world. I built this new big workbench. It's 10 foot long. Lumber wasn't what it is now, but it was still expensive to do. I built this thing, and I got some new really nice pots that I still use today. Quality products last a long time, I will say that. So I went live in this brand new workbench that I had, and people were like, well, I didn't know you did all this. So I was like, well, what sinkers do you guys want to see me make? And I made bank and egg and no roll and coin. And I think there was a few others that I had at that point. And it was like a 40 minute video. My wife was just following me around doing this, and I go the ins and outs of safety, and you want to make sure you have like a window open. I'd show the ins and outs and how to do this. And I had been fortunate enough to have somebody contact me on Facebook that said, hey, my grandma has all these sinker molds and stuff. That's what ultimately got me into doing this, because I bought stuff and there's no way I could have acquired all this stuff in such a short amount of time. So we were saving up to go to Disney World. I know I'm kind of going off the left field. We were saving up to go to Disney World, right? First big family vacation we ever did. We had 2 kids. And so we went to Disney World. We were going to do this, but before that, I told my wife, I need to take some money out of our savings account. There's this lady that has all these sinker molds, stuff that I can't, like it's custom stuff that I want to buy it. And I talked her into it. So I bought what I needed. And I was like, you know what? If I go buy everything she had, it was like 300 and something molds. Like he did this full time. He was in his late 60s. This is what he'd done for 10 years. So I went and bought every one of them. And my wife was like, I'm going to kill you if this doesn't work. Because we were only a couple months out. So I kept what I needed and I sold the rest. And that's ultimately what got Tackle Bandit rolling, as far as having the ability to add things and to move things around and to kind of grow in what we did. Yeah. But with a live feed, I went through and I was pouring everything, and we didn't pour much of anything, but anything somebody would say on, I think we had like 60 comments in that 30-minute, and I was like, this is unreal. At the end of it reached like 1,800 people after a week, and I was like, there's no way. 1,800 people watched me be a goofball and pour these things. Before you know it, I was sitting out there shooting the bull. It was a way to make time go by fast. I got orders from that. Guys would say, hey, can you make this? I want to buy this many of them, and I'd make them right there, and they'd PayPal me the money, and I'd send them their stuff. And it worked out really well. Then it kind of grew into carrying hooks with Tackle Cats. That was the first company I dealt with, and then another company that's no longer in business that sold lights. And then it kind of I pushed Willie with Tackle Cats to get more than just that. They started carrying hooks and swivels and terminal tackle. And that's kind of the really base floor of where Tackle Bandit came from.
When was that moment in the back of your mind, you might have not said it to anybody, that you said, this could go full time?
It was a long time. It was years, like 2 years after that. I never thought it was possible to, like, this started out as a hobby, and I'm kind of getting to where I like pouring sinkers, but that's the monotonous stuff, is like just to where I'll do it, but there's other things I'd rather go out and fish. But it was to the point, probably about 2 years ago, I was working about 80 to 90 hours a week between my full-time job, working about 50 hours a week at my regular job, 50, 55, and then I was working 35 to 40 hours a week in the evenings and the weekends. My wife would call me and say, I need you to come tuck the kids into bed. Go in, kiss them goodnight, pray with them, send them to bed. I'd go back out and work till midnight. I'd be up back at work at 6 at my day job. It was just getting to the point to where I told my wife, we got to figure something out. Like, this isn't working. And I was, when you get so frustrated, you just like ready to just cut off everything and just go away. Just go do something different. I was ready to just throw in the towel to both of them and just go be a bum. Yeah. But it got to the point to where I made a decision, and I told my wife, I said, we need to sit down and figure out our financial points. We don't have anything extravagant. I bought a new truck, and I was like, holy cow, I can't believe I did this. But that was like the one thing, is I had to buy a reliable vehicle before I went full time. So that was like there were stair steps we did to where we ran the finances on it. We made sure it was good. I had to buy a bigger building. It was a big portable building, the biggest one I could find. It's what I'm in right now. And we did all of that before. And then about 3 months after I bought a pickup truck, 2 months after I bought a pickup truck, because we were doing so many shows and hauling around all this weight, I couldn't rely on my old 2008 truck to keep 200,000 miles to keep rolling across the country. And so we did this, and it was like, wow, we're doing it. So I called my boss. There's a little bit of something before that I forgot about. I told my boss, I said, I'm going to be quitting pretty soon to do this full time. And he's like, are you kidding me? Then my boss ended up quitting. I got a promotion at work. They got me to stay around for about 6 more months, and then I just finally said, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I was working. It was hard on my family, on our relationship. My kids said, Dad, why do you always work all the time? And when you hear that from a 6-year-old boy who wants to go out and go ride bikes or go throw dirt at each other, like it hurts. And so that was the point to where it's like, all right, I got to make a decision to do this. And with that, it was so hard to do, because I had made so many friends at my work. That's why I went. That's why I did what I did. The people I worked with, the job was terrible. It was hard work. It wasn't good. It was just a rough job. But man, I look every day now when I do this full time. I wake up with a smile on my face. I might be frustrated, but I'm like, I drive to work. Well, I walk outside to work now. I walk to the shop. I go start up everything. I pull up my orders and print them out, and now I can get everything done. My wife comes and helps me. If I could want to go eat lunch with my kids, I go stop what I'm doing, turn everything off, go eat lunch with my kids. They get home from school, I'd go hang out with them. If there's stuff I got to do in the evening, it's right there. It's been the best thing that I've ever done to do this full time, and I had no intentions of ever doing this as a job. I never took anything out of this. Like whenever we first started this, I'd say the first 3 years, every penny went back into it, and there's no way I could have done it any other way. And it's going to be pretty successful in my opinion, because we're like the underdog, right? We started off with just doing hardly anything, and now we have one of the biggest catfish specific selections out there. I mean, we have so many different reputable brands that are out there, and so many different products that We look for new products and innovative products, and that's made a huge difference on like a show like this, to where a guy can walk in and say, how do you use a planer board? And I've got, well, there's 3 different kinds that I've got. I explain it to him, and it just kind of we have so many different options for it, and it just started with not even knowing I was dreaming.
Yeah. How tough was that, making that? I know looking back on it, you're like, oh, I should have done that a long time ago, whatever. Man. How tough is it to sit there and make that decision? I'm going in tomorrow, and I'm saying bye to stability, a paycheck every 2 weeks, and all that.
Well, and at this point, I was working for. I reported to the CFO of the company, or the COO, one of the owners of the company. And I walked in this big corner office, leather chairs, super nice. This is an oil and gas company. It's booming. It was booming at that point. They're still going good. I do some contract work with them a little bit every once in a while, because it's just that's got to happen. Doing what I did, I was pretty specialized with it, so there's a little bit of a niche with it all. It's oil and gas equipment. But walking in that door with that piece of paper on my hand, my heart was just a thumping, not knowing. And I said,
so you've got the resignation letter written out.
And I said, and it was, I'll stay, 4 weeks if I need to, but I'm ready to get out the door. Like, it started off with, I really appreciate how you let me, because I started off at the bottom. They brought me in with so little experience that I didn't even think I knew how to turn on the computer. Yeah. Like, that's how it started, and I ended up running the department, a handful of years later. And then I did that, and he's like, well, it sure sounds like you have a passion for what you're doing. And he said, are you comfortable with doing this? This was kind of around the beginning of COVID, and I was like, my gut usually isn't wrong. And it's telling me.
So you did this at the start of COVID.
This happened in February of 2020.
I didn't realize it was then.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's what happened.
So that was actually probably a little bit right before it. So you had.
No, it was March. Yeah, it was right after Catfish Conference. That's when I realized I can't keep doing this.
Yeah. So because I know that timeline well in my head, because in my world, went to Catfish Conference, came back from that. We had some big jobs, and then it was right around March 9th, the bottom fell out and it was shut down. I would have been like, in your situation, I would have been like, what the crap did I just do?
So we came back from the Catfish Conference, like blew everything out of the water that I even expected. It was just the guy that works for me, Jeremy, and I went. Typically, both of our wives would come with us and they'd help, and they weren't able to because of stuff with school and whatnot. And so it was him and I, and it was crazy. We met so many people. I think that's actually when I first met you, and then other YouTubers, and it was such a cool thing to see this unfold. And it's like, that's when I knew something was really going on, when I first went to Catfish Conference. But February happened. I ended up getting really sick after Catfish Conference. Pretty sure I had COVID. Yeah. There's a couple guys who did. Yeah. I was like 6 days down. I'm down on the couch. I couldn't do anything. But I put in my resignation, and he's like, I need you to stick around, because that was when my boss quit, and I took his role. He kept me for 3 months, and I had to buy this pickup truck. I bought it in May, and in June, I waited for everything to be finalized from the bank. In June, I walked away. I've done very little work in that, and I stepped away from that full time. And up until there was a point in 2020 to where I was working 2019 at the end of it, I was working part time to be able to do this all. So I still had a steady paycheck to where we know we could pay our bills working 20, 30 hours a week, and me do this and get everything set in place and try to keep growing. But I bought this pickup truck, and I was like, holy cow, I got to pay for this every month. I got to make sure stuff's going on. And it turned into a budget. I got to do this. And, you pay yourself what you can get by on, and you grow from there.
But in retrospect, you probably couldn't have picked a better time to jump into the tackle business, because during COVID, tackle business blew up.
If there had been a bird in my ear that said, you need to spend everything you have and buy this, I'd have been like, you're crazy. Oh man, I wish I would have bought. I wish I would have been able to foresee what all these bigger companies saw coming. 2020 blew everything out of the water that we'd ever done. April was, everybody was fishing. Bait shops couldn't get bait around me. At this point, we started supplying some local bait shops with sinkers and terminal tackle and stuff. And that's kind of what opened another door to what we have. it just turned, 2020 was the turning point to where it's like, this is going to happen. Like there's no turning back. Like I'm not worried at all. And I've never been in a position in my life. I owned a lawn care and landscaping company, and every spring when it stopped raining, I said, I might go out of business this year. Yeah. If it doesn't rain, you know what's going to happen. But with fishing, they sold, I don't remember how many more licenses. Like there were so many more millions of licenses that were sold, and you couldn't get rods and reels and sinkers, and everything was out. I had shops call me saying, I'll take whatever you have. And I was like, I can't. I got people that I'm selling to that need this stuff. Yeah. And so that was the turning point, was about April or May, where I was like, I'm comfortable doing this. I bought a pickup truck. I bought a bigger enclosed trailer. And that's when we changed our tactic to where COVID totally destroyed all of our show season. Our 100, they canceled every single show up to this point. So we decided I'm still gonna utilize this vehicle that I purchased. I'm gonna follow a tournament series, somewhat local, the Cat Masters event. So we went to every one of them except for the first, because we weren't sure how this all was gonna work. And so we went to every one of them. And that's when we've met all these guys that you guys see that win tournaments. We sponsored like the Baldwins and like Aaron and Robin, Aaron Churchwell and Robin. And there's a bunch, Spud and all them, and all these guys that are fishing these events, and we got to know them and build a relationship with them and find out, what are you guys really looking for? And that's what we focused on for a while last year. And then that turned into this year to where we've been to Alabama 3 times this year at these events, met all these awesome anglers and new anglers at the Sea Arc Invitational, did online catfish conference. I never did an online show before, and that was pretty cool. And then it turned into, we realized we were missing a market, that there's all these bank fishermen that are out there that everybody's overlooking. And so that's where we've kind of changed our tactics on, and we're trying to get to where, we're opening up a bait shop. If somebody would have said, Nate, you're going to open up a bait shop in 3 years, I'd be like, you're out of your darn mind. Like, there's no way. And so we're opening up this shop now, and whenever we get it finished, hopefully we'll be moving into it next week. It's going to be, so there's been multiple different business owners that said we're like the grizzly jig of catfishing. If you don't know who familiar grizzly jig is, I don't do many plugs on anything, but they're the crappie capital of everything. And we're getting into crappie fishing too. And so it's really cool to see that, like, somebody from an outside is like, man, you guys have everything. And that's our goal, is we want to have just a super good quality selection of products that is reliable. They stand behind the product. We stand behind it. If there's any questions, we'll answer it. We've got people that do YouTube videos that we can point our products. If you want to know how to use, like, say, a Demon Dragon or a cast net, or how do I snell a circle hook, there's guys out there, yourself being one of them, that I'll say, hey, go look up Dieter, and there's tons of videos on how to do this.
Yeah. Where did you get the skill to do this? Because I did a podcast with Caleb from Big Cat Fever, Catches the Fever, and again, he didn't go to school for sales, didn't go to school for business. He was freezing embryos or something. You guys
freezing embryos.
Yeah, he did some cryogenics thing.
Yep.
And
him and I were real similar in how we did.
What is it?
So I don't know.
How does this work?
I don't know. I'm not going to get super detailed on his end, but him and I both owned a lawn care company. Yeah. Right? We were in high school mowing lawns, and I worked at a gas station in town. Well, that's a hustle. We grew it from, it's the same type of thing. I grew it into, I was running multiple crews, and it just got to where I was tired of doing it. Just get wore out of doing the same thing. There's a drive in somebody, and I figured out that there's some days where that thing is just over-fueled and ready to go. And if you can channel that drive right, you can conquer anything. The drive is what has pushed me to just keep going, just never give up. There's been days to where I've been so frustrated, I've thought about, like, is this really all worth it? And then my wife's like, are you kidding me? She's so underthanked, and I give her so much crap on live videos. But she is such a huge part of this, and she's so behind the scenes, taking care of the kids, helping me with stuff, replying to emails. She prints off shipping labels and fills orders. Like right now, she's probably filling orders in the shop because, she worked today and knows I need to stay up and keep going. It takes an army to do this, and it's people that work for me like Jeremy and my wife and Jeremy's wife that have made such a huge difference in being able to make all this happen. Because I'm to the point now where I can't do it all. I have to pass it off, and it was a hard lesson to learn, but once you do that, you relieve all this stress, and it makes it so much easier to keep going.
I was talking with Caleb. I asked, one of the things we got into, I asked him, I said, in any business, especially started business, a YouTube business, you got ups and downs. You're king of the mountain one day, man, and then you hit a bottom. Caleb's was when Zach Royce caught that state record fish, and he had to pay up on this thing that he figured, I'm not going to have to pay up on this $10,000.
I didn't know this.
He did not reveal it to anybody until that he was like at the bottom of the barrel. They were like, holy crap, we just started, and now this guy catches 2 fish. You only got to pay for 1, but
Thank goodness they had that little blurb in there.
Yeah. What was your scariest point so far in doing this? What was the oh crap moment? Did you have a moment, whether it be...
I never had anything like that happen. For me, it was like, are we really going to drive across the country to set up a catfish conference? We're going to load up every catfish item I have into this moving van that we rented and drive across there and go set up. And that was where this is all the cards on the, we're all in.
What people don't realize outside the fishing business is it's for a lot of tackle dealers, whatever you sell, whether it be tackle, rods, clothes, shows are a big part of it.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just
fast.
And it's not just paying the fee to have your little booth. You've got to get there, you've got to eat.
It's 3 tanks of diesel to get here. It's the trailer I don't know if you guys follow me, but I'm terrible on tires. I need a tire sponsor. So if there's anybody out there, tacklebandit.com, send me an email. I'll put it on my trailer.
And where you're located is probably, while it's centrally located, is probably geographically not in the center of the catfish world. So you've got to
we
travel.
Figured that out. So tournament series and stuff, the Cat Masters, I kind of blurred on that. They're more of a southern to the Mississippi. They branch over a little bit across, but it's Mississippi and southern USA, kind of Texas, Oklahoma, some Arkansas. That's the better part of it. But where we're at, it's 6 hours to almost anywhere that's going to have some type of show. It's 6 hours for us to get to Memphis. It's 12 to Louisville. It's 14 to here, 13 and a half, 14 hours to here in Pigeon Forge. And we found that out, but it's not discouraging. We just realized we have to plan for it. And we make lemons out of lemonade. So this is what we did. We left a day early. I booked a trip with one of the guys that we sponsor, and we went and caught striper 2 days ago. Man, talk about an experience. That's awesome.
Very
Catch
cool.
a 25-pound striper, and then you get to go set up for a show that evening.
So, what's in your vision here? Because I heard you mention crappie, however you say them in Oklahoma. They're stripers. I know you're starting. You've made it past the point of, I can do this full time, and you're probably like Caleb was and other people I've talked to. The wheels are probably turning on something next. Where's Tackle Bandit going to be? By the way, great name it's a great brand name too.
It totally was an accident. The name came up, and it was going to be, we were going to come out with rock bottom tackle. That's what we came out as. And my buddy bought the domain, and I was like, you sucker. I know he really did. And then, we're like, man, I don't remember how it all came up, but it was just running a word, and somebody said, you're like a tackle bandit. You just got everything. I was like, tackle bandit. And it just rolled off the tongue, and we were like, that was it. That night I went and bought the domain. I bought everything for it because I learned my lesson. And where we're going to be in, my vision in 5 years, we are opening up a huge bait shop for our area. The area that we pour that'll be dedicated for sinkers is bigger than most of the bait shops in our area. So we're opening up. We converted a welding big warehouse machine shop into a bait shop. And we want to be able to supply. We're still we're focusing online, but we have such a demand locally that I can't keep driving and meeting people out for this. So we were like, we're going to do the shop. So my goal is we're going to get in the kayak world. We already have things rolling for that. Kayaks and accessories. My goal is to have electronics at some point. It'll be a while down the road with everything going on with COVID. Crappie is a huge market by us, and then Texas as well. We're actually a distributor for almost all of the items that we carry, so we supply quite a few bait shops around. And with that happening, it has opened up windows of people saying, "Can you get this? What about this? What about bait knives? What about fishing poles?" And that was whenever COVID hit and we had all this in, we were like, we got to get fishing rods. That was the point where I was like, all right, this is something happened. So we Catch Fever was one of the first ones we did. Then Meat Hunter, which is another local brand. We've sold reels, and we're gonna have the whole 9 yards for fishing, for catfishing, and then we're gonna do the same thing for we learned you can't just jump in and do it all at once. You'll drown. But if you ease yourself into all this and make it to where you can take bites out of everything, you'll get that down.
You can't eat an elephant in one bite.
Yep.
And do you have employees yet?
I have. Jeremy works part-time. This shop is going to get done. And very shortly after I get in this shop and I get situated, he's going to be working full-time. I'm very confident that I will need 1 to 2 more within 2 to 3 months of opening the shop up full-time.
Is that going to be scary? Because I've heard that from so many people when all of a sudden it's not just paying your light bill, but what you're doing and decisions you make affect somebody else.
There's a point to where, man, I've been worried. But I'm like, you know what? God's been really good to me. I'm a pretty faithful person.
It seems like getting to where you had to put a lot of it in faith and
there was a lot
God's
of praying.
Hands and just,
there was a lot of praying and talking to my wife and just like, we got to figure this out. And it's like, I feel like I'm told, you don't got to figure it out. It's in my hands. That's what I feel like was told to me. And I'm like, you're right. Let's do it. And I feel like I just got pushed out the door, and it's like, you got to get all this stuff done. It's not waiting on somebody else now. It's waiting on me to get the shop done and employees hired. And 6 months ago, I'd have been scared to death. I was scared to death when I told Jeremy. I said, "Hey, I'm going full time with this." And he's like, "Well, you think I'll ever be able to go full time?" And he has a good job, And he's one of my best friends, and it's crazy to think about that. What this has turned into, from being pushed from the industry and guys and people helping, with being responsible to make sure somebody else gets paid. That doesn't really scare me anymore, just because I don't know. Like I said 6 months ago, it definitely did. Now growing with it, it's going to get to a point to where, there's going to be some big conversations that are going to have to happen about how to do this and how to make it more successful and try to keep things growing growing. And I'm really, really excited about it. The challenges to me, I used to get really discouraged when something would happen, or when I'd be like, man, I missed something. And now it's a challenge. Now I see it as, this comes from Caleb Page. Where I am today, I want to be better tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And when I heard that was about a year ago. It's like, man, I got to get to know this guy.
Yeah.
And so I've talked to Caleb quite a bit over the last year. Yeah. And he's been a huge influence on me, as far as like helping me make decisions, not helping me make decisions, and me bouncing ideas off of him and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or is this a good idea? And sometimes we disagree, and I do what I do, and it's either, it might work out well, or it's, that wasn't really the best idea. But if you take bites out of everything, you don't try to swallow it all, there's not a whole lot to lose. You could do something wrong, and it'd be like, that was a terrible idea. I'm going to do this instead.
I know you've looked down the road. We've all had that kind of, you quietly to yourself saying, man, where would you like to see it in 10, 15 years? You're still you're a young guy. You got a long road ahead of you. 10,
15 years, I don't know if there's a building in this country big enough for where I think it's going to end up. Honestly,
Johnny Morris needs to look out. He may get bought out.
I don't know. I don't know about none of that. But I don't know, 10 years, we signed a lease on this building, and I was like, I don't know if this building's big enough where we're going to be in a couple years. I'm being serious.
That's awesome.
It's a serious conversation that we've had, because we're in a building right now, our booth is 40 by 40 where we're at, and our showroom's, bigger than that, but it's like, we got to make sure we do this and be efficient with everything that we're doing. I can look 3 years down the road, and I think that we are going to be a place that you can call and place an order, you can get online and place an order. There might be some other, we're going to be up to where if somebody needs something and we don't have it, I'm 100% confident we're going to be able to get them or find them something that they need that will work for what they're trying to do.
I dare say that your first, I guess, catfish conference, or if that was your first show, you were probably wondering, oh my God, I paid this much for this space and I ain't got nothing to fill it up.
I filled it up.
I bet now you don't even blink an eye at getting a big space. Like you have a very great space at this show, by the way. Very well done. Everything in the world anybody could want is there for catching catfish. You probably don't even blink an eye at that now.
I actually this is the biggest booth I ever got. And I'll say this, but I saw Catch Fever got a 40 by 40 booth, and I'm like, I could fill up a 40 by 40 booth. So I made some phone calls and got it all done, and we got here, and I was like, 40 by 40 is a lot of space. But when you get everything out and you get it to where people can shop it, it's not like it's all drawn out and stretched out or anything.
And you're lucky this year that it's not super packed because of this coming together last minute COVID. If it was like by next year, you're going to have people bumping into each other in there because you've got a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll change some stuff around. I mean, we have our trailer pulled in there for backstock and quickly loading up things whenever we're trying to get all this tore down. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into this besides, I mean, it's not just like, just get in the, just show up here and everything's there. There's set up and tear down and it's a lot of work behind the scenes.
Well, now that you're down and you've done all this, what would that grandfather say about this?
I don't even know.
I think you'd be proud.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about that quite a bit. I would like to shake that guy's hand and give him a hug.
There you go, folks. Like I said at the beginning, his love for family, his love for what he does with this business, and his love for the sport, you can't hide it. And it was a very, very touching ending to the podcast, and I think it really shows the character and the heart of this guy. And I was very honored to have him sit down and express himself in this podcast and reveal what he did. Got newfound respect for him for what he's done with the business and how he views family and life, and has a pretty good check on all of it. So great podcast. Try to do some more of these, but until next time, we'll catch you out on the water. Well, folks, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Here are a couple more videos that I think you're going to like. I'd watch that one and then that one. No, do that one first and then that one. I don't know. Just watch them both. They're both good.